To address Raphtalia's crisis, Naofumi heads for Siltvelt, the only port with ships bound for Q'ten Lo. Before the journey, he regroups and selects his travel squad, Raphtalia, Philo, Sedina, plus Atla and Fohl, whose local ties may aid diplomacy. He'd bring Ran and Itsuki too, but their curse wounds aren't healed, and the weirdo is also missing. As they approach Siltvelt, a massive welcome shield hero banner greets them. Crowds cheer, and elite knights form a royal escort to the castle. Atla marvels at the honor. Even Naofumi admits, this feels like a royal parade. Then they're greeted by a high-ranking official named Balnar. He's super respectful and introduces himself formally. Naofumi returns the introduction and then presents his crew. He clarifies that Atla and Fohl aren't purebred white tigers and promises not to get involved in internal politics. Balnar accepts and invites them into the royal castle. Naofumi is asked to attend a formal viewing, after which his companions aren't allowed to follow him past a certain point. He's then offered a seat on a throne as if he were their king. They welcome Naofumi and rejoice at his return. He next meets the big shots, the leaders of the main clans that run Siltvelt. They bow and praise him like royalty. Naofumi says, "All right, enough ceremony, let's get to the point." He makes it clear that he's not here to take over Siltvelt or meddle in their politics. He just wants safe passage and help preparing for an attack on Q'ten Lo. He promises not to cause trouble and asks for their support. In response, the leaders insist he rest and attend a banquet, warning that an abrupt departure could spark unrest among people who revere him like a god. Naofumi reluctantly agrees. Then, officials offer guest rooms but refuse to house his companions in the same room, deeming it improper. Meanwhile, Naofumi doesn't think anyone can mess with him, but he still wants to avoid solo moves. Then Atla requests a room next to his, and Balnar reluctantly agree.
After a while, the banquet kicks off. Naofumi's dressed up, looking sharp and trying to stay alert. Raphtalia and Atla warn him that events like this always have hidden agendas. Sure enough, Jaralis shows up. He's a lion-like noble who seems more reasonable than Werner. He offers to help Naofumi leave Siltvelt quietly, hinting that Werner wants to keep him trapped for political leverage. Then comes a surprise reunion. Ethan, a white tiger demi-human and old acquaintance of Fohl and Atla, appears. He warns them that Jaralis might be involved in their father's death. Ethan tried to get the military to investigate, but was ignored. Things get political real fast. Naofumi meets Ethan, a white tiger demi-human who used to work under Fohl and Atla's father, Tyron. Rumors say Jaralis' report about Tyron's final moments didn't add up, and Ethan's repeated requests for a military investigation were ignored. He's been carrying guilt ever since, and now wants to help Naofumi's crew as a form of redemption. Naofumi asks him to spy on both Werner and Jaralis and report back to Sedina and Philo. By the way, Ethan warns that Werner and Jaralis both have shady motives. Werner wants to keep Naofumi in Siltvelt to boost national unity, while Jaralis seems helpful but might be playing his own game. Jaralis even offers to get Naofumi a ship through unofficial channels, even if it means getting his hands dirty. Naofumi's not impressed with Siltvelt's hospitality. He's constantly being stalled with banquets, rituals, and services he didn't ask for. During a formal meeting, the nobles propose making Naofumi the military centerpiece for the next wave. Naofumi shuts it down, saying he has no intention of staying long. His village needs him. Also, Jaralis tries to speak up in support of Naofumi, but gets shut down for not being one of the 4 great races. The whole council is a mess of politics and posturing. Naofumi's patience wears thin. In other words, he is done with their games. They're ready to move on, and Naofumi's already planning his next steps. He knows this country's politics are a mess, and staying any longer would just put his people at risk. But things spiral out of control when someone tries to poison his food. He catches it instantly thanks to his shield protection. One of the demi-humans collapses, confirming it wasn't just paranoia, and calls out the entire room. Well, Naofumi's patience finally snaps. He demands answers, and the nobles start pointing fingers. Jaralis and Werner immediately go at each other. Werner accuses Jaralis of orchestrating the poisoning, while Jaralis throws it right back, saying Werner is just mad Naofumi won't stay in Siltvelt. Naofumi's like, I don't care who did it. Someone tried to kill me, and I'm done playing nice. He's already got a ship lined up and warns them if this nonsense continues, he's out. It's indicated that Naofumi knows who tried to poison him. Although Naofumi tries to stop them, Atla steps in to shut down their nonsense before he can.
The episode kicks off with Atla calling out the nobles. One noble sneers, the white tiger blood is tainted with human lineage. Jaralis barks, you have no right to speak. Meanwhile, the king, recalls what Atla said to him. After that, he learns that the White Tiger siblings, descendants of a disgraced war general, have gone to Siltvelt with Naofumi. He questions the queen, you really sent those two to Siltvelt, that place? However, she assures him that Naofumi is with them. The king then recalls how Siltvelt lost to Melremark, and how the White Tiger demi-humans were forced to bear full responsibility for the loss. Meanwhile, Atlas had enough. She steps up and absolutely roasts the council. You claim to honor the shield hero, yet you ignore his request and disrespect him? She calls out their hypocrisy, their lack of faith, and their failure to remember how Siltvelt was founded by the shield hero for demi-humans. Atla's speech is fire. She reminds them that Naofumi rebuilt the village of Luralona, gave homes and hope to demi-humans, and that she, even as a slave, was accepted and loved. She also reminds them that just like Luralona, it was the shield hero who founded Siltvelt for demi-humans to live. We owe everything to the shield hero. Of course, not everyone's convinced since Luralona is much smaller compared to Siltvelt. However, she reminds them that Siltvelt was also a small village once.
Well, to put it simply, she is comparing Luralona to Siltvelt as a whole. She declares that she is expressing her gratitude and love to Naofumi as a godly figure for saving her and giving demi-humans like her a place to belong, just like the shield hero once did for Siltvelt.
As Atlas starts convincing them, some begin to believe that Naofumi must be the hero of the time to come. As the nobles turn against Jaralis, the scene shifts to the poison scandal. As we know, Naofumi's breakfast was laced with poison, then Philo and Sedina walk in with the suspect, a royal chef named Tenny. Initially hesitant, he confesses he was forced to do it under orders from Jaralis. Well, we all knew who did this. Jaralis tries to gaslight the whole situation. I didn't give any orders. The moment Naofumi hears that, he's like, that's it, I'm out, I won't stay in a country that poisons me. I mean, can you blame him? By the way, the chef's family was threatened and he was just a pawn. Even Philo confirms he's not lying. Just as Naofumi is about to leave, Jaralis claims Naofumi isn't the true hero foretold by prophecy. If he were, he'd be summoned to our country, not Melremark. In other words, he is trying to turn the situation against Naofumi to escape the accusation. It's funny how this is the same guy who was willing to do almost anything for Naofumi. You know what they say, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. It is also important to note that the White Tiger lost to Melremark due to Jaralis leaking their war strategy to Melremark, and he went to hide in a safe location. So yeah, this guy is a piece of art and certified scumbag, though he cannot defeat our Hall of Shame yet. Meanwhile, Naofumi realizes that Jaralis' backup plan was to make Siltvelt question Naofumi's legitimacy as a hero. But Atlas not having that either. She claps back with logic. Naofumi was summoned alongside the other three heroes to share power and face the waves together. That's the whole point. And if Jaralis doubts him, maybe he's the one who's lost faith.
So just when things couldn't get more tense, a legendary figure named Okina shows up. And by the way, this guy isn't just some retired elder. He's a former Genmu warrior with massive influence across Siltvelt. He bows to Naofumi, says it's an honor to meet him, and introduces himself like, call me Okina. Okina's heard everything, and he's not impressed with the nobles. He says Atla's speech was spot on and calls out the council for being selfish and disrespecting the shield hero. Atla, fired up, says if they're going to keep blocking Naofumi's path, she'll remove them, physically. Jaralis snaps, I'll crush you myself, and Atla's like, bring it. But before they can throw hands, Okina steps in and says, enough, this is going nowhere. Let's settle it the Siltvelt way, with a duel. Thus, a duel challenge is issued out of nowhere. Naofumi stunned, but Okina insists it's the only way to resolve the question of whether Naofumi is truly the prophesized hero. Atla volunteers to fight as Naofumi's representative, and Jaralis accepts. He even names the champion for his side as his teammate.
The terms? If Jaralis wins, the White Tiger clan gets exiled, the Lion clan rises to power, Naofumi becomes a state asset, and Atla gets punished. If Atla wins, Siltvelt follows Naofumi's orders, no questions asked. Jaralis agrees, duel accepted, stakes locked. Then Fohl steps in, Atla's brother, and says, "Let me fight instead." Atla refuses, saying this duel is too important to risk, but Fohl insists, "I need to ask him something. This fight matters to me and to our father." Atla is torn, but eventually agrees. Jaralis, if ever the arrogant lion, says, "Fine, I'll fight both of you. Let's see if your filthy blood can stand against my noble power." Okina reminds him that duels must be fair, so Jaralis brings in a second fighter, a Minotaur-like war hero from the old days. Yeah, this guy's a walking tank. Atla and Fohl don't flinch. Atla says, "Even if my brother falls, I'll finish the fight myself." Fohl replies, "I'll prove our strength by stepping over their expectations." Naofumi gives them the go-ahead. "I'm counting on you." Atla responds, "Leave it to me." Then the duel begins. The crowd watches as the White Tiger siblings face off against Jaralis and his beastly ally, who is a champion. And just before the clash, we get a glimpse of Jaralis' twisted plan. He wants Naofumi to marry the champion's daughter. Needless to say, Naofumi starts freaking out.
So it kicks off with the battlefield already in chaos, and we can see Jaralis along with his soldiers. Although the soldiers plead with Jaralis to order them to retreat, he tells them to keep fighting. Jaralis is like, "If I survive, everything will be fine," which is expected from this guy. Fohl and Atla are in the thick of it. As the fight begins, Fohl and Jaralis both throw punches. Atla, meanwhile, is dodging the champion like she's in a dance-off. Since Fohl is proving difficult to deal with, Jaralis decides to use cheap tactics to gain the upper hand. Atla continues to dodge attacks rather than counter. Thanks to his cheap tactics, Jaralis manages to give Fohl a massive beating. Then Atla goes on the offensive and even makes the champion kneel with a single strike. However, it's still not enough. Despite having the upper hand, Fohl manages to counterattack. Then Okina points out that Fohl and Atla remind him of Tyron. Naofumi asks, "Who is this Tyron guy?" It turns out Atla and Fohl's dad, Tyron, was the son of the White Tiger King, Tyron. Tyron was powerful but hated fighting, which didn't sit well with the old king. They had a falling out, and Tyron was disowned. After the Tiger King died, civil war broke out, and Tyron teamed up with Jaralis to squash the rebellion. Now, back to the fight, Jaralis fails to defeat Fohl as he keeps getting back up despite his dirty tricks. Then Sedina tells Fohl she will thank him if he wins, and this helps Jaralis catch Fohl off guard.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
Jaralis pulls yet another dirty move and poisons Fohl mid-battle. Naofumi calls out Jaralis' dirty tactics, but the Genmu rep shrugs and says, "Siltvelt duels are wild, anything goes." Fohl's getting wrecked, but he's still standing. As Jaralis tells the champion to finish Atla and help him, Naofumi starts roasting him and implying that his dirty tricks weren't enough, so now he's begging someone to save him. The champion goes full beast mode with his Iron Bull Stampede, his most powerful attack, but Atla counters with her own version of the Hengen Muso technique. To everyone's shock, Atla knocks him out cold. Naofumi then reiterates that if they win, Siltvelt must arrange a ship to Q'ten Lo, and Jaralis will follow his orders. Just as Fohl is about to deliver a decisive blow, the poison starts working. Everyone becomes worried, but Fohl stands on his feet. Then Jaralis starts trash-talking Tyron, calling him a coward who used his men as shields and died begging for mercy.
He's like, "Lies, my dad wasn't like that," and goes full rage mode, almost knocking Jaralis out.
To everyone's surprise, Jaralis finally spills the beans. During the Third Rebellion, Tyron showed up uninvited, messed up Jaralis' plans, and stole the glory. Jaralis never forgave him and saw him as a nuisance. Now, Fohl's not just fighting for victory anymore, he's fighting for his dad's honor. The emotional tension is off the charts. He's poisoned, exhausted, and still pushing forward. Atla has already won her duel, but Fohl's still in the thick of it, and it's clear this fight's far from over.
things just got intensely personal. Jaralis goes into full villain monologue mode and confesses. He straight up admits he killed Tyron with his own hands. Not only that, he relishes the memory like it's his favorite bedtime story. The way he describes crushing Tyron's life and savoring his final pathetic expression, that's next-level twisted satisfaction. Meanwhile, Naofumi is confused as to why that scumbag is suddenly confessing his crime. Fohl's reaction? Understandably furious. It turns out, Jaralis still has a trump card up his sleeve. Then, Jaralis transformed into a big-ass lion. Apparently, there's talk of a legendary transformation in Siltvelt where a beast man can evolve into a beast god and even beyond. And Jaralis pulled it off using that suspicious medicine. His power skyrockets, and he starts ranting that with this strength, the shield hero is obsolete and the world should worship him as a god. We'll see about that. However, Fohl isn't backing down, and Naofumi learns that he has overcome the poison. Thus, a full-on fight begins. Fohl remembers a promise he made to protect his mother and Atla, and that memory fuels his resolve. He admits he was weak and couldn't protect his mom before, but now he's not letting history repeat itself. Jaralis manages to pin down Fohl and proceeds to threaten Atla. Just as Jaralis is about to finish Fohl, his transformation kicks in hard. He's glowing, his stats are off the charts. Now that's a badass-looking transformation. Meanwhile, Jaralis starts fuming. He then calls his underlings to destroy everything. Meanwhile, Naofumi, along with Raphtalia, Philo, and the gang, is ready to jump in. On the other hand, Atla can't help but feel proud of her brother. The episode starts with pure chaos as Fohl and Jaralis exchange blows. Meanwhile, Raphtalia and the others engage and decimate Jaralis's men. Fohl goes toe-to-toe with Jaralis and declares that he will avenge his father and destroy him. In response, Jaralis tells him that he will kill him and then he will kill a god. In other words, Naofumi. Although Naofumi and his team defeat Jaralis's men, they rise again and proceed to attack. Well, he's done some freaky body mods on his soldiers, turning them into zombie-like creatures. Naofumi and the crew are like, wait, what? And yeah, it's bad. These things don't stay down. Meanwhile, Fohl's in the middle of it all, trying to hold his own. Then Fohl outpaces Jaralis and destroys one of his eyes. However, his eye heals immediately. In his thirst for power, Jaralis starts devouring his own men.
Jaralis devouring his men to become more powerful actually reminds me of the Orc Lord from Slime.
Jaralis has gone full monster mode, and it's not just metaphorical. Dude has become half kraken and half lion. Seeing Jaralis transforming into an ugly monster, Naofumi insists on joining the fight, emphasizing that this ain't a duel anymore. As Jaralis continues to devour all of his men, a hideous monster emerges. Needless to say, everyone is shocked. Then Raphtalia and Philo attack Jaralis, but to no avail. After his ugly-ass transformation, he starts ranting about divine power, claiming he's surpassed gods and will rule the world, a classic villain meltdown. Then Naofumi tells everyone to move away from Jaralis to avoid getting absorbed. Despite Fohl being in his beast form, Jaralis, that monster, manages to overwhelm him with ease. Naofumi sees a window saying, "Grant your power to the target to make them transform?" He asks Fohl straight up if he's ready to become stronger. Fohl, driven by grief, rage, and a desire to protect Atla, accepts without hesitation. Thus, Naofumi steps in and activates his transformation skill. It's worth noting that the skill Naofumi is using comes from the shield of the Beast King, which he copied after encountering the shield inside the room he was staying in. Back to the transformation, a green light falls on Fohl as if a divine stuff is taking place. Meanwhile, Okina and the others start praying, pointing out that this is a divine miracle and the legends were true. Then Fohl transforms, white tiger mode, full beast god energy. That boosts Fohl's stats like crazy. Even Raphtalia's strength can't compare. But there's a catch, a time limit. Fohl has to finish this fast. Meanwhile, Jaralis can't believe what he's witnessing. He mocks Fohl, saying, "Borrowed power won't save him. Look who's talking." Then Jaralis goes on full Delulu mode about some myth bullshit. Anyhow, now Fohl easily overwhelms him. As Fohl calls him a disgusting monster, Jaralis looks at himself and sees what he's become. Although he's a scumbag, I do feel a bit of pity for him. Upon realizing he has indeed become a monster, Jaralis goes berserk. Atla jumps on Fohl's back, and together they charge. He channels everything into one final move, an ancient white tiger technique called Tiger Tyrant Strike. They slam into Jaralis, and after some back and forth, Fohl manages to defeat the scumbag. Thus, Fohl, with the help of Atla, avenges his father by eliminating Jaralis. After a while, a search begins to find out who gave that shady drug to Jaralis, but they have vanished without a trace. Thus, Naofumi calls Rat to investigate the drug for further clues.
After Jaralis is defeated and the dust settles, the elders of Siltvelt step forward and formally apologize to Fohl and Atla. Ethan is also very happy to see how far Fohl and Atla have come. Naofumi points out that his rapid power-up is probably due to his demi-human nature, beast transformation, and, well, avenging his parents. Both Werner and Okina admit they were wrong to call them tainted or impure. They now recognize them as the true heirs of Siltvelt's legacy. You are the true citizens of Siltvelt. We offer our deepest respect. It's a powerful moment of redemption, not just for Fohl and Atla, but for their late parents too. The shame that had followed their family is finally lifted. This apology also ties into the prophecy. The elders say that the one who unlocks the true power of Siltvelt's people is the destined hero, and that's Naofumi. So yeah, it's a double recognition. Fohl and Atla's honor is restored, and Naofumi's role as the chosen one is reaffirmed. They tell Naofumi that the ship to Q'ten Lo is already being arranged and will be ready in 2 days. After restoring their honor, Fohl and Atla receive a lot of respect from the citizens of Siltvelt. They then visit their parents' grave. It was supposed to be rebuilt now that their father's honor is restored, but Fohl says no, he wants it left as is. Then they're invited to another place. It turns out to be the house where Fohl and Atla's parents used to live. It had been sold off to pay for Atla's medical treatment, but the current owner, who used to be close to their dad, heard about what happened and offered to return it. They arrive, and the place is huge. It's got a mix of Japanese and Chinese design vibes, and even the windows look like fancy shoji screens. They explore the house, Fohl's dad's study room, the old costume room, even some traditional outfits that were supposed to be sold but somehow got returned. Fohl's determined to buy everything back properly one day. Meanwhile, Atla tries on some new dresses. Fohl is in the kitchen checking the tools and ingredients. Everything's in good shape. He asks Naofumi if he can cook dinner tonight. He wants to make a dish their mom used to cook, something Atla is never tasted. It's his way of reconnecting with her and their past. Then Atla is asked to taste the dish. She's never had anything like it, but she loves it. Fohl's happy, but he's still tweaking the recipe. He says it's missing sweetness, richness, and a soft aroma. Naofumi experiments with some Melremark spices, and suddenly the flavor hits just right. Needless to say, everyone, including Atla, enjoys the food. After a while, with a heavy heart, Fohl leaves behind his birthplace.
Trash gets handed some food that Atla helped make that morning, praising it as the best thing he's had in a while. Then the queen confirms that Atla and Fohl are actually the children of Lucia, who's Trash's sister. There's a quick debate about whether to tell them, but the consensus is that just building a bond is enough for now. After that, Naofumi informs the queen that he learned some hard lessons in Siltvelt, but thanks to him, the Siltvelt army is now on board to help deal with the Phoenix. Still, he's prioritizing the Q'ten Lo mess because you can't fight on the front lines with trouble brewing in the rear. The queen tells Raphtalia that next time she might be welcomed as a state guest. Then Naofumi and the company head back. Upon returning, Naofumi starts figuring out who's going to Q'ten Lo. The obvious picks are Sedina, and of course, Atla and Fohl, considering their recent achievements. A water dragon and dragon senses might come in handy. Windia wants to join, but she's told that guarding the village is just as important. Erhard, the blacksmith, wants to come along. Apparently, he's recognized the weapons from a recent attack as the work of his long-missing master, so this trip might be his chance to find him. He wants ranged fighters for the voyage, so Itsuki and Rishia are tapped, while Ren is asked to stay and lead village defense with Eclair. As they approach Q'ten Lo's waters, a thick fog settles, and Naofumi warns there won't be a peaceful landing. Season 1. Tell them to watch this scene alone, and they might change their opinion.
Stop it. Get some help.
Anyhow, Naofumi's crew continues to fight off the assassins and minimize how reckless that ambush was. Only by choosing to attack amid these deadly currents could the Heavenly Emperor's assassins hope to stop them. Spirit weapons power. The Spirit Division developed a pacifier system centuries ago to regulate and suppress heroes who might misuse legendary or vassal weapons. But there's another hurdle. The barrier is still controlled by the Heavenly Emperor, trapping Naofumi's ship in endless circles near Q'ten Lo's shores. Q'ten Lo without issue. Thus, Raphtalia finally reaches her homeland, Q'ten Lo.
Things kick off with Naofumi and crew realizing that the barrier messing with their ship's docking is being controlled from a lighthouse. They gotta destroy it fast to reunite with the others. Meanwhile, on the ship, everyone's status seems fine, but the land's still off limits, like magically sealed off. Then, boom, costume change. Raphtalia gets a new outfit that hides her ears and tail. Naofumi compliments her look, and they're off to fix the barrier. Galeon takes the water dragon's fragment crystal, I guess, which is a way to tell the people of Q'ten Lo that Galeon is a servant of the water dragon. Anyway, they decide to travel by land. Flying's risky, and getting swatted midair isn't on the agenda. Naofumi jokes it's like Japanese-style Raphtalia land. Well, Q'ten Lo apparently resembles medieval Japan. By the way, Raphtalia's bloodline is worshipped by the folks of Q'ten Lo, but her parents had to leave despite being revered. Something shady clearly went down. Suddenly, chaos. A kid's attacked by a monster. But just as they are about to jump in, Sedina stops them and tells Galeon to handle it instead. Thus, Galeon obliterates the monster and saves the kid. But the locals freak out. Well, killing any creature is forbidden under the current emperor's decree. By the way, this is an absurd rule, and you will find out why soon. Apparently, the emperor's decree banning all killing of living beings, even monsters, is causing serious problems. People are literally starving, fishing's banned, and the country's basically falling apart. Naofumi realizes this might be the perfect moment to stir rebellion. Then a bunch of imperial soldiers approach Naofumi's crew to punish them for killing a monster. But Sedina intervenes and tells them that a monster killing another monster isn't against the emperor's rule. Then Galeon shows up, and they immediately realize that Galeon is a servant of the water dragon, thanks to the crystal thingy. That little loophole saves them from punishment. And then some random dude named Muramasa instantly falls for Raphtalia because she's brave and beautiful. He tries to flirt and even offers tea. Then he goes after Sedina and gets shut down hard, as she already has someone she likes. Lucky bastard.
Meanwhile, Naofumi's like, is this guy Motoyasu 2.0 or something?
While I am an animal lover and I feel bad when humans eat meat, we can't possibly force all humans to become vegan, since it would inevitably push the world towards chaos, starvation, and even complete destruction. Also, the citizens of Q'ten Lo start to think that Naofumi's crew are messengers of the water dragon. Anyhow, then Naofumi realizes that they are being followed. Well, a mysterious guy named Luminous shows up, claiming he's not an enemy and wants to talk. Suspicious timing, but they hear him out. Turns out he is Luminous, the son of the current city mayor, Ralava. Well, he's part of a resistance, and he realizes that Raphtalia is the true emperor and wants their help. Then he takes them to their mansion where Naofumi's crew meets Ralava. Ralava wishes to see Raphtalia's face, and she obliges. Well, Ralava used to be close with her father. As Naofumi introduces himself, surprisingly, Ralava has heard about him. He even thanks him for saving and protecting Raphtalia. According to him, the current emperor is taxing people into oblivion and enforcing ridiculous laws. Ralava wants Raphtalia to inherit the true emperor title and lead the country back to sanity. She's like, me? Seriously? And Naofumi's like, we came here to deal with threats to her life, not start a political career. But the resistance insists. Her dad believed in serving the people, not power. So yeah, they've been waiting for her return like she's the chosen one. Their plan? Take out the barrier-controlling officials and raise the rebellion flag. They've got troops ready, and Naofumi agrees to help. Meanwhile, Naofumi's like, we're already targets, might as well gain allies. Raphtalia's back in her Miko outfit, again, and they immediately recognize her as their emperor. They also kneel in front of her. Then comes the hype moment. Naofumi gives a speech, invoking her lineage, calling people to rise up. The crowd's fired up, Naofumi's impressed, and they march toward the enemy stronghold. Naofumi declares that the true emperor has returned, and they want to meet their leader. They're like, no negotiations, just eliminate them. So yeah, battle time. Thus, Naofumi and crew unleash their powers, and Raphtalia leads the charge. They aim for the mega lighthouse. If they shut down its light, the barrier drops. After obliterating the Emperor's soldiers, they enter the lighthouse area. But just as they are about to destroy the lighthouse, they encounter the leader of the enemy. He then proudly declares that he has been blessed by the true Emperor. Well, they use a special stone given by the Emperor that weakens spirit powers and boosts Emperor-blessed warriors. Naofumi's protection fades and things get tense. Naofumi realizes that this is a perfect weapon to stop heroes. If only he had this Emperor Stone thingy at the beginning of this series, then he wouldn't have had to waste so much time and energy on those 3 idiots.
Thus, the leader proceeds to attack Naofumi and Raphtalia, but ends up hitting Raluva. Sedina, though, she's unfazed. She throws herself between Naofumi and Raphtalia and goes full big sis mode. No matter what happens, I'll protect you both. Then the leader calls her the Miko of Slaughter, like it's an insult. The enemy tries to attack Naofumi, but he counters it with a clever move, and the tide starts to shift. But, of course, the enemy's got one last trick. Astral Enchant. It's a high-level buff that lets one blessed warrior absorb the powers of others. Basically, if he takes damage, one of the soldiers dies instead of him being hurt. The battlefield shakes, and the enemy thinks they've won, since he has the advantage. Then comes the twist. The Muramasa guy from earlier switches sides and hands over a shield to Naofumi. The leader's like, traitor, and he just shrugs, I've always been on the side of cute girls. Naofumi grabs the shield, power surges back, and the whole squad rallies. By the way, that shield is an artifact that boosts abilities even inside the barrier zone. Raphtalia unleashes her signature move, Okagura-style Flame Form, and Galeon taps into the divine barrier and gets it under his control. Thus, they manage to put out the fire controlling the barrier, and the squad pushes forward. Sedina then launches an attack while Raphtalia prepares to deliver a decisive blow. The enemy leader tries to resist, but Raphtalia's already in motion. As a result, the barrier collapses, the battlefield clears. After a while, the squad finally reunites. Atla and Philo run towards Naofumi, but Sign proceeds to hug Naofumi, and Atla is jealous. Muramasa asks if this is Naofumi's harem. Naofumi's like, it's not a harem. Then Elhart shows up. It turns out Muramasa is Elhart's long-lost master.
Naofumi's crew has successfully seized control of the lighthouse that manipulates the barrier. Naofumi begins discussing their plans moving forward, but instead of a war council, they're dealing with a squad of hungover revolutionaries. Why? Well, because Sedina decided to host a drinking contest. Naofumi is like, focus up, and asks where the current Heavenly Emperor is hiding, as he wants to get this over with quickly. It turns out that the current Emperor is residing in the new capital of Q'ten Lo. Raluva suggests starting their campaign from the old capital, where the previous emperors took the throne. Interestingly enough, if Raphtalia performs the proper ritual there, she'll gain access to divine blessings. That's a game changer for the revolution and Naofumi's upcoming battles. By the way, the real mastermind of this whole mess is that woman, Makina. She's the regent pulling strings behind the scenes, and she's ruthless.
In other words, she's the one controlling the emperor like a puppet. Is it just me, or does she resemble that infamous Well, we'll learn more about her later on. Then Naofumi suggests Raphtalia hold a parade in her Miko outfit to boost morale. Then a weird sound shakes the city. Dust clouds rise near an ancient ruin. Everyone rushes outside and sees it, a massive multi-headed serpent monster named Hydra emerging from the ruins. It turns out that the government broke the seal on these ancient monsters to protect their power and to stop Naofumi's crew. They were supposed to have been defeated by the previous emperor long ago, but that was a lie. They were sealed, not slain. The fact that the monsters were sealed inside ruins instead of being slain was so Q'ten Lo could use them to strengthen the barrier. There are multiple ruins like that across the country. And now, thanks to the current emperor's misguided blessings, they're back and stronger than ever. Apparently, the emperor enacted a rule against killing monsters because those sealed beasts protected the country by strengthening the barrier. Funnily enough, they consider those sealed monsters gods, but those same creatures once almost destroyed Q'ten Lo. Most absurd of all is that the emperor even gave them blessings to make them stronger. Releasing those monsters shows how desperate and ruthless Makina can be to cling to power. However, Naofumi sees an opportunity. If Raphtalia defeats the monster before it harms civilians, she'll be seen as the true heavenly emperor. That flips the narrative, corrupt government versus people's champion. So the squad splits up. Naofumi leads the charge with Galleon and the others.
Meanwhile, Philo, Itsuki, and the rest head to the site to support Naofumi.
The monster? It's got 8 heads and the Sakura Emperor's stone thingy. Just as they move closer, Naofumi realizes that the Hydra has the Emperor's blessing, and it will deploy a divine barrier that weakens hero buffs if they move too close. The Hydra attacks next, but Naofumi manages to evade its strike.
Raphtalia's weapon is already registered to bypass the monster's defenses,
and the crew launches their assault. Philo's bouncing with energy, and even the blacksmith's gear is holding up. Atla's being dramatic, of course, but she's assigned to support duty with Itsuki and Rishia. The battle kicks off. They aim for the torso, but it's rock solid. Naofumi realizes they need to sever all 8 heads simultaneously to break the barrier. After struggling for a while, they manage to defeat the Hydra. But wait, Hydra isn't dead. That was just a clone. The real body's deeper inside the ruin, and now they're dealing with multiple regenerating copies. Naofumi deduces the real one has a core stone, and they need to steal it to shut the whole thing down. Meanwhile, the Hydra seems fixated on Raphtalia. Maybe it senses her divine potential. Or maybe it hates her resemblance to the Emperor. Either way, she becomes bait. The others hold off the clones while Naofumi's squad dives into the ruins. Inside, the air is thick with cursed magic. The barrier protecting the kingdom is being corroded. If they don't act fast, other seals might break too. Naofumi finds ancient hieroglyphs, weapon upgrade instructions, and how to become more powerful. But those are useless to Naofumi since he already knows them. Maybe Ren or Itsuki could decode them later. Then, boom, purple light pulses from the root of the monster. That's the core. Then, the real Hydra finally appears. Sedena gets fired up to deal with the Hydra. She's like, Naofumi will rule this country in the future, so I'm not letting it burn. However, Naofumi clarifies that it will be Raphtalia who will run Q'ten Lo.
By the way, Sedena can now unleash her beast form with the help of Naofumi's blessing.
Thus, she starts transforming into her beast form. Upon transforming, she's like, is this Naofumi's love?
After a long time, we get to see Sedena's killer whale form. Then she, along with Raphtalia, engages the Hydra. According to Raluva, it's not just a fight anymore, it's a battle between gods.
Hydra's core is exposed. They strike. With Raphtalia's final blow, they somehow manage to defeat the Hydra. Hydra's down, but the aftermath, they find a cursed sword. Just touching it feels like a death sentence. But Muramasa grabs it like it's no big deal. Naofumi's crew decides to keep the sword sealed for now. They don't need another monster popping out. And with Hydra defeated, they've got their propaganda moment. The revolutionaries saved the people, while the government unleashed chaos.
Naofumi's crew is marching toward the old capital, and they've got a secret weapon, Philo. Turns out the Philo-Leal queen shares her pattern with the national bird of Q'ten Lo, and thanks to Raluva's advice, putting Philo at the front turns their advance into a parade of instant loyalty. They set up camp near the old capital, waiting for reinforcements. It'll take 2 or 3 days, but once they occupy the city, they'll hold the emperor succession ritual. Raphtalia's nervous. Getting the power doesn't mean she becomes emperor immediately. Naofumi tells her not to overthink it. Meanwhile, the crew's prepping for the next phase. Raphtalia and Philo have a parade tomorrow, so they're told to sleep early. Naofumi heads out, and the streets are quiet. He bumps into a girl named Zodia, who looks a lot like Sedina. She asks Naofumi where the main street is. Even after being shown the way, she goes in the wrong direction. After that, Naofumi visits the workshop. Then comes the cursed sword subplot. Naofumi checks in on the repair status of the blade she handed over. Muramasa says it's fixable, but he needs tools from his workshop in the old capital. Enter Zodia, the mysterious girl from earlier who keeps getting lost and popping up in random places. She's adorable, awkward, and immediately gets invited to go drinking by Muramasa. Naofumi's like, I'm out, but the crew ropes him in anyway. They end up at Zodia's inn, which doubles as a bar. The place is quiet, but they manage to get in. Zodia's already tipsy, calling him Naofumi-chan. Before leaving, she gives Naofumi a side card as a memento and drunkenly proposes, "Will you be my husband?" Naofumi's like, "You're wasted," but she whispers, "I'm serious though." The next morning, we can see Zodia looking at Raphtalia helping the citizens. Then Naofumi holds a parade with Raphtalia and Philo. And thanks to Raluva's advice, putting Philo at the front turns their advance into a parade of instant loyalty. Cities welcome them without a fight. Just as Naofumi is relaxing, Zodia pops up again, lost as usual. She saw the parade and wants to talk about the new emperor. Apparently, she's been doing dirty work under the current regime. She's tired. She wants people to smile again. And when she saw the new emperor at the center of those smiles, she thought, maybe this person understands. Then she's approached by one of the assassins from the current emperor. "I've come to escort you." Naofumi returns with the drink as requested by Zodia, but she is nowhere to be found. Naofumi meets with Sedina, and the conversation shifts to Sedina's former role as the Water Dragon Priestess. It's not just ceremonial. She leads armies, executes enemies, and carries out all the dirty work. Her clan has done this for generations. They're known as the Miko of Slaughter. She also knows that someone from her clan is serving the current emperor, but she doesn't know who. This makes Naofumi recall Zodia saying something similar. Well, Zodia is the current Miko of Slaughter, or Water Dragon Priestess, and she is Sedina's Nunder sister. Then comes the twist. A town behind their lines has been ambushed by government forces. Naofumi sends Atla, Fohl as reinforcements, but before they can act, a messenger arrives with a letter from the enemy. It's from the Water Dragon Priestess herself. She proposes a meeting between commanders to negotiate. It's formal, diplomatic, and surprisingly reasonable. Even Sedina is surprised, saying, "Well, for my family, it's actually pretty considerate." Well, Raphtalia heads to meet the Water Dragon Priestess. The attendant announces, "The Water Dragon Priestess is ready to receive you," and Raphtalia bows, stepping through the ornate doors. She's greeted by Zodia herself. Zodia introduces herself as Shildina, the Water Dragon Priestess, and Raphtalia offers her name in return. Then Shildina cuts to the chase. "I've been wanting to meet you to ask you to halt your assault on the old capital immediately." Well, after receiving the invitation letter from Shildina, Raphtalia volunteers to go alone and meet her, but Sedina fumes. If it's for the Heavenly Emperor, the Water Dragon Priestess will use any dirty trick in the book. Raphtalia glances at Naofumi, who recognizes this is a rare chance to negotiate face-to-face with the Water Dragon Priestess. Let's hear her out. Well, they also have Raphchan. If anything goes wrong, she'll send a signal. She lays out her offer. The rebels must surrender, join the royal army under Raphtalia's leadership, or, if they wish, they can return to Melromark territory with full safety guaranteed. Raphtalia pauses. She reminds Shildina she came here to correct the misunderstanding that she had no political ambitions, but witnessing the suffering firsthand, villagers defenseless against monsters, corrupt officials abusing power, and Hydra's rampage was born of the governor's own blessing, she can't side with the oppressors. "I refuse," Raphtalia states firmly. "Obeying your terms will only worsen the people's plight." Shildina nods, impressed by Raphtalia's conviction, and offers a new proposal, a mutual withdrawal. Rebels will cease fighting for a truce, and in return, Shildina will arrange Raphtalia's meeting with the Emperor to negotiate peace. "Can I really trust you?" she asks. "As the water dragon priestess Shildina," she vows, "I will see this promise fulfilled." Raphtalia agrees as the rebels' representative, formally accepting the truce, and Shildina promises to send the date and location for the peace talks as soon as preparations are complete. Before departing, Shildina quietly adds one more request. If negotiations somehow collapse and the rebel forces win, Raphtalia should take the crown from Raphtimila and become the emperor herself. She even begs Raphtalia to consider becoming the emperor for the sake of the people. Cut to the aftermath. Government troops actually pull back from Q'te's gates, and the rebels stand down. The citizens of the old capital flood the rebel camp, welcoming Raphtalia and her party like heroes. Even the most skeptical revolutionaries can't help but respect how Raphtalia brokered peace, and whispers spread that the government's inner workings must be in terrible shape for Shildina to act so independently. To everyone's surprise, Raphtalia actually makes up her mind to become the emperor. This is mostly due to Shildina's plea and heartfelt request. After a while, Naofumi and the others head to perform the secret sanctuary ritual for Raphtalia's emperor succession. Then, Makina flips out at Shildina. "You were assigned to protect the old capital, not negotiate with rebels." She calls her a disgrace, comparing her unfavorably to the previous priestess who followed orders without question. Meanwhile, the ritual's ready. Raphtalia steps up, the priest murmurs the incantation, and bam! She's bathed in holy light. Thus, she officially becomes an emperor candidate. The revolutionary army cheers, "Long live the new emperor!" But Raphtalia can't quite feel the shift yet. Then she gives the emperor's blessing to Naofumi, confirming that the ritual worked. Then Shildina asks the big question, was the hydra rampage really caused by the emperor's blessing? But Makina loses it. "How dare you speak such madness before the emperor?" She brands Shildina a traitor, a disgrace, and demands punishment. Then Raphtimila finally speaks. She is forced to order Shildina to risk her life and stop the rebel invasion of the capital. With no other choice, Shildina bows and accepts the mission, even knowing very well that she will probably die. Well, both Shildina and Raphtimila are basically puppets of Makina, and they can't disobey her. 3 days pass, no word from Shildina, but something's off, and Raphtalia's blessing is nullifying enemy barriers. Then a messenger bursts in. They've finally received a response. But the tension spikes again. Another report says government troops are massing near the capital. Wait, wasn't Shildina supposed to stop the fighting? Someone asks. Did she trick us into giving up the old capital so they could regroup? But Naofumi deduces that Shildina doesn't control the whole army. This smells like Makina's doing. And then another messenger arrives. Shildina has appeared alone at the old capital's checkpoint. Alone, no army, no backup, just her. Things heat up right from the start when Shildina, the water dragon priestess, steps forward and basically says, "Enough of this bloodshed, let's settle it with a duel." She lays it out clearly. If she's defeated, the government army collapses and the war ends. If not, the rebellion dies here. It's a gamble to save the people from a capital-wide massacre. Although Raphtalia prepares to face Shildina, Shildina challenges Sedina for the duel, and just when everyone's still processing that, the challenger drops the bomb. She's Sedina's younger sister. Sedina is stunned. She didn't even know she had a sibling born after she fled. The sister's fury is raw. "Because you ran, I was forced into the priestess role. I suffered, I was broken, I was used." She blames Sedina for abandoning her, for leaving her to carry the burden. Her sister, locked into her role, declares she was born only to serve the emperor till death. But Sedina refuses. "I won't let this cursed cycle continue. I'll end it here." Given that her sister has been through a lot, she won't let her continue to suffer. The duel begins with divine chance. Sedina's sister fights with ferocity, while Sedina stays calm, almost too calm. Well, Sedina understands that she is partially to blame for Shildina's predicament. Seeing Sedina not fighting back, Shildina hands her a famous drink. The duel turns surreal, almost like a drinking contest. Sedina suggests that they should join forces and bring down the current regime and end her sufferings. Then Shildina brings out the harpoon that Sedina once used to carry out the Emperor's dirty work. Then she copies Sedina's magic using a special card called Oracle. Shildina taps into terrifying reserves, her aura thickening, her tail glowing with divine energy. "This is my trump card," she snarls.
After Sedina defeats Shildina, she turns back to her human form. Thus, Naofumi realizes that Zodia is the dragon priestess. When Shildina unleashes her trump card, Sedina is easily overpowered by her. Although Sedina tries her best to defeat Shildina, she is easily defeated. After Sedina is badly hit by Shildina, Naofumi and the others rush to her side, and Shildina clings to Naofumi like, "Naofumi-chan, you're worried about me. I'm so happy," she coos. Then Shildina finally notices Naofumi and asks him what he is doing here, to which Naofumi introduces himself as the shield hero. Then a battle of jealousy begins between the two sisters. Then Shildina's body goes out of control due to the use of her trump card. Shildina then turns into Raphtalia's doppelganger. Strangely enough, that mysterious lady knows Naofumi and the others' identities. Anyhow, she declares that now is the hour to destroy them and storms off. According to Raphchan, the card Zodia gave to Naofumi now has her soul stored inside it. Since that lady is headed towards the capital, Naofumi also chases after her. Naofumi also assures Sedina that they will save her sister. Meanwhile, a large explosion is heard near the Emperor's castle, with Makina nearby. When Naofumi and co reach the site, it's pure chaos and destruction. Yup, that mysterious lady is causing all this destruction.
Well, the past emperor has apparently killed Makina. We didn't even get to see her die, which is very disappointing. Anyhow, the spirit of Makina then appears and tries to control the past emperor. Eventually, she gets Shildina, aka the past emperor, under control by messing with the crest. Although Raphtalia tries to cut her down, Makina manages to pin her down too. Then Shildina hints that they need to use a weapon that can destroy souls. Thus, Naofumi brings out his Soul Eater shield and gives Raphtalia's sword a boost. Sedina then sprays holy water over Makina, causing her to get burned. As Naofumi keeps her busy, the past emperor catches her off guard and erases her by hitting her as hard as possible. If the past emperor was going to finish Makina and do everything, what's the use of Raphtalia coming all the way here to get revenge?
And yes, Raphtalia did use her sword to make Makina visible, since she was hiding.
Yep, that's all she did in this fight.
And instead of a fight between Raphtalia and Makina, we get a fight between Raphtalia and the past emperor, as she challenges Raphtalia and she agrees to face her. At this point, saying that the story has deviated from the original plot would be an understatement. The story has become very boring, to say the least. Long story short, Raphtalia is overpowered by the past emperor. However, she manages to defeat the past emperor using Shildina's card and bring her back. Anyhow, Naofumi and Raphtalia declare victory. To keep the previous emperor Raphtalia safe from rebels, they told a made-up story. The young emperor was devoured by Philo and ended his reign. In reality, when Naofumi and the others arrive at the castle, they find Raphtalia shivering. Although Raphtalia offered her life, Naofumi decided to take her to his village and live under a new identity. As for Shildina and Sedina, they ended ties with their family and now serve the current emperor, Raphtalia.
After dealing with Makina, the past emperor, and the whole emperor bullshit, Naofumi prepares to take on the Phoenix. Meanwhile, in a shocking turn of events, Motoyasu chases after Malty and corners her. Where and how he met Malty is still a mystery. Led to the confrontation has not been disclosed. Anyhow, Malty begs Motoyasu to spare her, but for some reason, Motoyasu sees Malty as a pig, or Pig Malty. Well, either Malty had been transformed into a grotesque pig-like creature, or Motoyasu's perception of people has warped. He may now see others as animals, which is funny yet disturbing at the same time. Anyhow,
Since Motoyasu didn't understand a word she was saying, he swiftly finishes her, thus killing Malty in the process. Just as he was leaving, he realizes that he didn't destroy her soul. Trust me, not destroying Malty's soul would cost him and Naofumi a lot later in the series. Surprisingly, Malty is still alive even after being stabbed to death by Motoyasu. I know he is an idiot, but Motoyasu deserves praise for doing something we always wanted to see.